Hi guys, and welcome back to another video on my channel. Today I want to talk about my 10 favorite games of all time. So if you're interested in knowing more about me or more about my favorite games, then please keep on watching. Number 10, Kingdoms of Amalur. Kingdoms of Amalur was the first open world game that I ever played on PC. I remember that I couldn't get my hands off this game. I can't really understand why such a great game didn't get much recognition. Yes, it had bugs, but the overall experience was just overwhelming. Kingdoms of Amalur is one of those games that don't ever seem to come to an end. The world of Amalur was massive and full of secrets. What I especially liked about Kingdoms of Amalur was the combat system. It was well developed and made fun, and I think that was the most important factor about the game. It wasn't as opaque as the combat system in many games that were released in the same period. Unfortunately, the studio that worked on the game filed for bankruptcy, so we probably won't ever get a sequel. Number 9, Until Dawn. I'm actually not a big fan of horror games. In fact, I'm often too afraid to play them through, but Until Dawn's story was so in-depth and immersive. Not knowing who the enemy was just gave me the chills. The fear of the unknown was what I loved. Although the game is titled a movie by many critics, I still believe it's one of the best recent horror games. Personally, I think the butterfly effect was one of the factors that made the game so great. A small decision that may be insignificant to the player can make the difference between life and death. Not only graphics, animations, and story made the game as great as it is, but also its atmosphere. Until Dawn is the best horror game I ever played. Number 8, Stardew Valley. I've always been a huge fan of Harvest Moon, but in the end, it always got too repetitive and I eventually stopped playing. This is not the case with Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley gave me everything I ever wished for in Harvest Moon. Stardew Valley motivates the player to keep on playing continuously. Mining in Stardew Valley isn't random but requires skill. Relationships with the villagers are of importance and influence the gameplay significantly. You can explore new maps, and finally, you can customize your farm completely to your own wishes, only to name a few. What annoyed me about Harvest Moon in particular was that I always had to decide between growing crops or stocking with cattle. There was no in-between. Stardew Valley gives the player the freedom to do whatever he or she likes. Crops, dairy, and wool can be processed in numerous ways. Stardew Valley is the best farming simulator I ever played. Number 7, Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm a huge fan of Dragon Age, and I have to admit that Inquisition is my favorite of them all. Inquisition had many flaws, for sure, and was in no way comparable to the previous games, but this doesn't make it bad. I think Dragon Age Inquisition is a million times better than Dragon Age 2. I only wish that Dragon Age Inquisition wasn't an open world game just for the sake of being an open world game. There wasn't as much to explore as in other open world games, and most of the side quests were just boring fetch quests. My criticism may be harsh, but I want to be honest, even if it's one of my favorite games. The reason I like the Dragon Age franchise is because the lore is so in-depth and unique. The story fit perfectly. I loved how everything came together. The cutscenes were just mind-blowing. Each and every major character had its own story, and each of them was interesting to reveal. In general, I think Dragon Age Inquisition was just a great game. Number 6, Horizon Zero Dawn. I loved Horizon Zero Dawn and I enjoyed every single minute of it. When the game came out, I played it for days and I couldn't put my hands off this wonderful game. The only problem I have with it is that I don't really feel the need to replay it. When I like a game, I want to play it multiple times, but Horizon Zero Dawn doesn't give me the motivation to do that. The concept of Horizon Zero Dawn may appear strange at first, but I believe it's one of the best things ever made. The feeling you get when you encounter a Thunderjaw, for example, is just overwhelming. The combat system was exactly how it should be. There is nothing I didn't like about it. Combat was probably the most fun part about Horizon Zero Dawn. Also, the story was the most unpredictable one I have ever witnessed. I loved how it all came together and made sense the more you learned how the machines were made and how they took over the world. Horizon Zero Dawn is definitely my favorite game of 2017, and I can't wait to play future DLCs. Number 5, Fallout 4. Fallout 4 was my first Fallout game of them all. The concept of Fallout is so unique and original that I fell in love with it as soon as I started the game. I didn't know what I expected, but it was just brilliant. I loved the soundtracks, the graphics, and yes, also the gameplay. I think each and every story DLC was beautifully made, and I can't wait to start my second playthrough soon. The only thing that was a bit unnecessary in my opinion is to turn Fallout into Sims. I didn't ever really care about my settlements, but that's just a personal opinion. There is literally nothing I can criticize. Since this was my first Fallout game, I decided to play New Vegas too. I think I have never been so disappointed in my life. I primarily bought it because the majority of players, so I believed, told me that it's the best Fallout game of them all. I had to find out that it was not true. New Vegas was horrible compared to Fallout 4. I can't wait to play the next Fallout game. Number 4, Skyrim. Slaying dragons. Do I have to say more? Skyrim was the first Elder Scrolls game I ever played, and I fell in love with it the minute I started playing. Skyrim is one of those games that you can play for hundreds of hours. There is so much to explore that you don't even feel the need to do the main quest. What I especially love about Bethesda games is that they give you the chance to play it the way you want to play it. The story isn't the best, but it's not really doing the game any bad. Skyrim has a numerous amount of classes and races. It's always fun to start a new playthrough because there are endless possibilities in altering your character. Number 3, The Walking Dead Season 1. Now coming to my top 3 games. In my opinion, the Walking Dead series by Telltale Games is the most emotional and heartbreaking game series ever made. The game doesn't focus on graphics or extraordinary gameplay, but entirely on story. The decisions you make determine the plot. Just like in Until Dawn, you also have to decide about life and death. Some decisions you're making may look good at first but turn out bad in the end. You stop trusting strangers even if they have good intentions. Everybody can be your enemy, so the best thing you can do is to keep the ones you trust close. You start playing as Lee, who eventually saves the girl Clementine. On the way of finding her parents, they develop a strong relationship. It's almost like father and daughter. Telltale knows how to tell stories and how to empathize with characters. The loss of characters who've been with you all the time is just heartbreaking. Number 2, The Last of Us. After not having had a PlayStation since PlayStation 1, I couldn't wait to play my first game on PS4. The Last of Us is, in my humble opinion, the best game ever made for PlayStation. The first 30 minutes of the game are already more emotional than some of the game's whole story. Naughty Dog did a brilliant job by creating the atmosphere and story of the game. Whereas other zombie games deal entirely with slaying zombies, The Last of Us has its focus on stealth. Survival, fear, helplessness, and loss are only a few issues that are perfectly addressed in the game. The combat system is rather repetitive, but that doesn't make it a bad game. The Last of Us is a story-oriented game, and making it the way it is didn't do it any bad. The Last of Us is a story-oriented game as well, and I think It's just perfect the way it is. Naughty Dog is probably the best game developer that ever existed. I love how Ellie's and Joel's relationship developed. I love how they became inseparable in the end, and Joel risks not only his life but the continued existence of humanity to save Ellie. That's just beautiful. Number 1, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. After having played The Witcher 3 for more than probably 500 hours, I can clearly say that The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is the best game I ever played. As you've probably seen by now, is that I primarily play RPGs and heavily story-oriented games. These two factors come perfectly together in The Witcher 3. Each and every part of the world was interesting and exciting to explore, and each and every quiz was worth the play. Unlike many others, I loved the combat system. I loved how you could use mutations to change Geralt to your own wishes, and use a seemingly endless range of potions and oils during combat. Most importantly, I loved the use of signs. I've never seen a system like in Witcher 3. The animations and graphics are excellent, and the soundtrack is just beautiful. Minor bugs didn't put me off because the game at large is just a brilliant masterpiece. Ever since the game came out, I couldn't put it down, and I played it for 2 years now, and I have no intention to stop. I guess I would start new playthroughs until I can find a game that is just as good. The Witcher 3, to me, is the best game ever made. Okay, so these were my 10 favorite games. I hope you enjoyed. Now it's your turn to tell me what your favorite games are. Are any of the games I mentioned your favorite games, and what do you think about them? Please leave your feedback down in the comments, like this video and subscribe to my channel if you're new here. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye guys.